The Great Pyramids of Egypt. Were they temples of religious significance glorifying life after death? Were they monuments to house the tombs of the pharaohs? Were they mysterious technology that enamored men like Leonardo da Vinci and Nikola Tesla? Or were the pyramids a key to an infinite bygone knowledge that only some men are allowed to know, while others scrape for answers? Of the mysterious megalithic structures on Earth left over from a forgotten age, none surpass those of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. The truth about the pyramids is simultaneously the most debated and arguably the most academically protected subject in history. In this video, we'll attempt to answer why that is. Many great men doing good work get accused of practicing pseudoscience when attempting to solve these mysteries. But the truth is, the pyramids really are just that, mysteries. It's a subject someone could dig into their entire lives and never find the bottom of. Growing up and attending school, it's strange. We see these ancient structures discussed through the lens of their assumed builders, a civilization of primitive men with crude tools. This gives many people the idea that the pyramids are also primitive constructions. I mean, they even come up with these names for eras of history when these megalithic structures were built, things like the Stone Age and the Bronze Age. But if they were so primitive, then how come today we're completely unable to explain how they were built and why? And it's not just the pyramids that get this sort of bizarre primitive stereotype. Take, for instance, the figures of Easter Island. These caricatures of a civilization we don't understand are almost fun for us to think about. And in the words of the most well-known researcher daring to break away from the mainstream theories about the pyramids,
and anybody who tells you that he or she knows how the pyramids were built are not telling the truth, because we don't know.
It's impossible to cover everything in this video, and no matter what I cover, there's always going to be more that we can still talk about. But I'm going to show you several problematic artifacts, unsolved enigmas, and mathematical impossibilities that already shatter any mainstream theory currently in circulation about the pyramids of Egypt. Did you know that no tombs have ever been found in the pyramids? Fragments of things like mummies were allegedly found, but because of looting, it's impossible to know what was there and when it was put there. Another pretty significant anomaly is that the Egyptian pyramids have no hieroglyphics inside them. Britannica acknowledges this as well. Why in the world would they not have put hieroglyphics in the Great Pyramid when they put them all over their other ancient structures and artifacts? In fact, it's impossible to know who actually built it. If you don't believe that, keep watching because I'll show you this through multiple examples. Ever heard of the inventory stela? You almost definitely haven't unless researching the pyramids is a hobby of yours. It's a tablet left by King Khufu, and Khufu is the pharaoh usually attributed with building the Great Pyramid. On this tablet, Khufu meticulously chronicled plans to repair the Sphinx's image. Translators detail how Khufu restored it, covered it in paint, and how he planned to quarry the back part of the Sphinx's headdress to decorate it with gilded stone. He also visited the site of a sycamore tree near the Sphinx that was struck by lightning when, quote, the Lord of Heaven descended upon the area. Did a lightning strike damage the original Sphinx's head and Khufu just chiseled it down to look like himself? In an hour of the night, as it said on the tablet, Khufu had the thought in his heart of putting a written decree on the side of the Sphinx, and the carved figure of this god would be solid stone that would exist to eternity, looking towards the Orient. There's something strange though. For one, Khufu's son Khafre was supposed to be the one who built the Sphinx. So how is it that a father was chronicling fixing something built by his son? What are these, time travelers?
I came here in a time machine that you invented.
The more you start looking into the details of the narrative we've been told, the more things start to unravel. Another strange issue is the head we see today on the Sphinx is tiny for the body, but Egyptian statues have mathematically perfect proportions. So if Khufu built the pyramids, couldn't he or his son have repaired the Sphinx with a proportionate and mathematically perfect head as well? I mean, you just got done building a pyramid. You'd think you could also build a head that's proportionate. And that's not even the weirdest part. If Khufu meticulously recorded this construction, wouldn't he have recorded building the pyramids too? And yet there is no record anywhere of this incredible undertaking of constructing possibly the most perfect architecture in human history. Notable researchers have called this inventory stela the smoking gun evidence that Khufu did not build the Great Pyramid. But what do you think? The Egyptians meticulously recorded the lineage of their pharaohs and centuries of their own history, so what gives? Now, everyone knows the pyramids were built in 20 years using slaves. As I said before, Khufu is the pharaoh credited with building the pyramids through a massive undertaking that magically took only 20 years.
I love magic.
That's 2.3 million stones laid down in 20 years, some of those massive pink stones, over 60 tons, coming from a quarry that was 500 miles away, constructed by a culture that didn't have the wheel, using tools made from bronze, which can do nothing to granite. Simple math shows us that to build the pyramid made up of 2.3 million stones, each stone an average of 2.5 tons, you'd have to lay about one block every 2.5 minutes for 20 years straight and a 12-hour workday to complete it. That's basically 1.7 million pounds of stone laid every day for 20 years. I think our modern people would have a pretty hard time doing that. Now, if these examples of problematic history weren't strange enough, when I started looking deeper into the numbers, I realized the advanced math integrated into the Great Pyramid may change everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. Have you ever thought about how impossible the geometry of the pyramid actually is? Probably not, unless you're like me and spent every waking hour of your freaking life researching this. I'm going to go over some of the numbers and you'll see why our past is so impressive and mysterious, I almost threw up. The scale is cosmic. Pi is a never-ending number close to 3.14 that mathematicians for centuries have been enamored by because of its mysterious properties. For example, mathematicians and master artists associated infinite numbers like pi and phi with the divine. Infinite constants like these assist mathematical problems in being solved by making them easier, but also represent infinity at the same time. It's an amazing kind of contradiction. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci were integrating mathematics, the golden ratio, and the perfection they saw in nature into their works. To create artwork for God that was as divinely perfect as possible, they would use the most divinely perfect and infinite numbers they could as well. The question is, how did the builders of the Great Pyramid have divine numbers like pi and phi centuries before mathematicians like Pythagoras did? Okay, here we go. If you divide the perimeter of the Great Pyramid by its height, you get 2 pi. If you divide the circumference of a circle by its radius, you also get 2 pi. It's basically impossible that that's a coincidence. But here's the part that really throws off history. This precision should have been impossible for the Egyptians in their time. The pyramid was supposedly constructed in 2500 BC. But there's a papyrus scroll from 1550 BC, 1,000 years later, that shows the Egyptians thought pi was about 3.16, not 3.14. It's not perfect enough to build the Great Pyramid. Hang on though, how could the pyramid's builders have used accurate math down to the centimeter, but people in the same area of Egypt later on were using wrong math? What are we, being punked? Could it be that the pyramids are actually much older than they say because they were built by an entirely different people, and their methods were lost by the time modern Egyptians were doing the math we can find on papyrus? And if you think what I just said is crazy, just wait till the end of this episode. Here's some more mind-blowing math. The Great Pyramid of Giza and the Giza Plateau were constructed using the golden number phi and the golden ratio, an infinite constant. Phi is another never-ending number, about 1.618. It's called golden because the beautiful, perfect repeating patterns are seen everywhere. This perfect mathematical precision is in art, like divine art proportions. It's in nature, like flower, seeds, and shells. It's in physics, like the physics of black holes and the spirals of galaxies. And it's even in our DNA and the proportions of the human face. There are so many references to pi and phi in the Great Pyramid, which is impressive enough. But there's also the mind-boggling precision of its insides. You're going to want to watch the screen for this next part so you can see what I'm talking about. Do you know where you'd land if you went straight through the middle of the pyramid to half its height? The top of the relieving chamber above the king's chamber. How about a third of the way up? The top of the king's chamber. How about a quarter of the way up? The relieving chamber above the queen's chamber. How about a fifth of the height? That's the distance below the pyramid where there's the lowest chamber that we know of. A seventh of the height and you get the bottom of the queen's chamber. Just so you know, this is kind of nuts because those chambers were inside the pyramid and they would have had to build those inside as they were building the outside, and the entire thing would be a massive amount of planning. A sixth of the height is interesting because we're not sure yet if that aligns with anything. But interestingly, there is a great void that was found more recently that's a bit nearer to the top of the pyramid. So maybe there are other mysteries inside or beneath that haven't been discovered, and a sixth of the height does match up with something. Was all this math just a coincidence? It seems that the Great Pyramid is clearly one of the most carefully designed buildings ever constructed. What about the fact that not only are the Great Pyramid sides almost identical lengths, but they're also exactly oriented to face the 4 cardinal directions? They're only off by something like 0.015%, and that change could just be accounted for by the sheer number of years since it was built. This is an almost absurd level of accuracy, as Graham Hancock put it in his book, Fingerprints of the Gods. He said, quote, "In the opinion of structural engineers, the need for such precision was impossible to understand. From their point of view as practical builders, the expense, difficulty, and time spent achieving it would not have been justified by the apparent results." Graham Hancock also thinks that the builders of the pyramid seem to know how big the Earth is, because if you multiply the Great Pyramid's height by 43,200, you get the polar radius of the Earth. If you multiply the base perimeter by 43,200, you get the equatorial circumference of the Earth. He claims, quote, "The entire monument seemed to have been designed to serve as a map projection on a scale of 1 to 43,200 of the northern hemisphere of our planet. The Great Pyramid was a projection on 4 triangular surfaces. The apex represented the pole, and the perimeter represented the equator. This is the reason why the perimeter is 2 pi in relation to the height." Why in the world would they do that? When you build an object that's so mathematically and closely tied to the planet it's on, what does it do in relationship to that planet? Or the future humans who will interact with it? Is this some sort of technology we don't understand? Is math itself a form of technology? What other secrets could Egypt be hiding? If you look at the pyramid from above, draw one circle around the outside of the pyramid touching the corners, then draw another circle inside the pyramid that just touches the walls. If you subtract the inside circle in meters from the outside one, you get the speed of light in meters per second. Is that a coincidence? It's freaking awesome. Did you know that the line of latitude at 29.9792458 degrees north passes through the Great Pyramid? Well, 299,792,458 meters per second is the speed of light. Some naysayers like to point out that this line is slightly off from the pyramid's apex, though. But that doesn't account for our planet or the ground having moved at all since the pyramid's construction. Or that this was somehow intentional on the builder's part, and we just aren't smart enough yet to understand it, seeing how they knew the speed of light and all.
Prepare ship for light speed!
No, light speed is too slow.
Light speed too slow?
Yes, we're gonna have to go right to ludicrous speed.
But what if some people have understood it? Does that exact line point to a particular chamber or undiscovered element inside? Some sources say the line goes through the center of the Grand Gallery, though I wasn't able to confirm that. So obviously, some people think that this is all number manipulation. But what are the odds that you could manipulate these numbers so many times so perfectly? And most importantly, why should we care about all of it today? Well, what knowledge was so desperately significant to the builders that they wanted it preserved for generations, even millennia? Think about what we could learn about our world from the pyramids of the past. Basically, the Great Pyramid of Giza is a perfect scale model of the dimensions of the Earth, and it relates to the perfect nature of the cosmos. If this thing is related to and teaching us about the dimensions of the Earth, and simultaneously reveals information about the principles that hold our entire physical universe together, like the speed of light, what more could this thing reveal to us? So what do some of the top experts think about all of this? Well, some are still waiting to see what it adds up to, and others seem to think it's pure chance that this magnificent, mysterious ancient monument has pi, phi, the meter, the size of the Earth, and the speed of light built into its construction. We're talking about the pyramids revealing secrets that we don't even have a basis to understand. Tesla was obsessed with the pyramids, which led to the Tesla coil, and some say it was used for things we can't even dream of. Whether you believe that or not, the point is, what are the pyramids in Egypt trying to reveal to us today? In the 1400s, divine constants were utilized and translated into art by none other than Leonardo da Vinci, and it gave birth to the entire Renaissance. Some claim that Leonardo went to Egypt and saw its magnificence, then worked these universal figures into his Vitruvian Man. Just like then, these numbers made way for an artistic excellence we have yet to see since. What's interesting is that this may or may not be true that Leonardo visited Giza in his lost years, but that doesn't even matter because the genius of the Renaissance is as timeless and infinite as the divine constants in the mathematics found in creation and found in the pyramid. For ages since their discovery peeking above the sands of the Egyptian Sahara, the pyramids have deeply fascinated people, as if the chords of their souls had been struck. The Sphinx being a key, a gatekeeper of these great secrets, the pyramids holding cosmic information that only grows deeper, leading to more unexplained wonders. Like being in a maze, we're opening up to hidden truths and finding our way out. Could it be that the very maze that's for centuries been alleged to have been guarded by the Sphinx is this metaphysical one we're all in? Almost as if the builders themselves were divinely inspired or even divine themselves, and the knowledge itself is beautiful, secret, and something you don't write down. Is it any surprise then why the people who claim to hold these cosmic secrets most dear call themselves the Masons, after the builders themselves, keeping these secrets in a protected brotherhood and only revealing their enlightened mysteries 1 degree at a time? Their symbol is the compass, and the G stands for the Grand Architect. In the Masons' other symbolism, it's the pyramid itself that hints at where their secret knowledge comes from. For this group, is it any surprise why the pyramids would be so protected and their discovery so coveted? The Egyptian god held in almost the highest regard was Thoth, also known as Hermes. The Masons are obsessed with Hermeticism, so it's clear they were looking for something higher and deeper through their pyramid studies. I'll leave you with this most interesting information I found today. Most people don't reference this, but in a prophecy made by Hermes or Thoth, it documents what Egypt was like in its prime and what it would look like in the future. Is that future today? It's worth looking at a few lines from that prophecy. Nay, it should rather be said that the whole cosmos dwells in this our land as in its sanctuary. For the gods will return from earth to heaven. Egypt will be forsaken, and the land which was once the home of religion will be left desolate, bereft of the presence of its deities. O Egypt, Egypt, of thy religion nothing will remain but an empty tale, which thine own children in time to come will not believe. Nothing will be left but graven words, and only the stones will tell of thy piety. And in that day men will be weary of life, and they will cease to think the universe worthy of reverent wonder and of worship. As to the soul and the belief that it is immortal by nature, or may hope to attain to immortality, as I have taught you, all this they will mock and will even persuade themselves that it is false. And so the gods will depart from mankind, a grievous thing, and only evil angels will remain who will mingle with men and drive the poor wretches by main force into all manner of reckless crime. If what Thoth said in his prophecy is true, is it possible that the hand of the divine itself went into the pyramid's creation? If the pyramids really do reveal cosmic secrets, I think we now know why every group, sect, and brotherhood are protecting its secrets, whether for good or for bad reasons. Who were the gods who left? Who were these builders? And is it because of them that we get closer and closer to the divine the more we dig into the pyramid's genius? As with most things, the truth is hiding right in plain sight, and it's up to us together to find it. Well, I bet you guys are thirsty for more, right? Well, it wouldn't be right if I didn't leave you with some resources to quench that thirst for more interesting information on this subject that will show you how deep this rabbit hole goes. I have some longer conversational episodes where we talk about the subjects of pyramids, and I highly recommend watching these episodes on the mysteries of the pyramid and the Alaska Dark Pyramid. Also, if you like this type of content, think about supporting this work by pledging on our website, themetaphysical.tv. With your support, we can give you more exclusive content and products. Speaking of products, if you're into merch, check out shopmetaphysical.com. They're awesome t-shirts designed by yours truly. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help Metaphysical's channel grow, and don't forget to comment. I love hearing from you guys, and I hope you thought this episode was out of this world.